Hi, everybody. Welcome to the weekend edition of Daily Distinction. If you don't typically watch on the weekends, it's just a short check in just to see how everybody's doing over the weekend. To kind of give you one idea that you might want to consider as you maybe spend this weekend planning a productive week next week or whatever it might be. Great to have you here. I'm really glad you took the time to spend a few minutes. And if you're watching on replay, I always forget to do this. Most of our viewers watch on replay, not live. And I'm always thanking the folks that are on live. And I love doing that because I really appreciate folks that carve out the time to make it happen. But I know that's not possible for everybody. So if you're watching on replay, please know that I really, really appreciate you taking time to watch. And thank you for being here for Daily Distinction. Whenever you watch it, live or later or whatever works for you. Ernest, great to see you. Hope things are good in Texas with you today. Hope everything is going well, and great to see Scott here as well. Good to see you, Scott. Thank you for always being around. Yeah, Lubbock, Texas is in the house with us today. Ernest, that's really cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, and you don't often get the chance to be a part of this when it's live. So I'm glad that you're here, Scott. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Thanks to everybody that's watching, whether live or on the replay. We've got an important topic today. It's one that's that's always important. Leadership is something that is critical to any business, regardless of your size. Tim Cook is looking for leaders at Apple, and I know from experience with Mom and Dad's grocery store that some leaders that could run the store when they weren't there would be greatly appreciated as well back in the day. So it doesn't matter how big or how small your business is. We're always looking for leaders. Leadership is something that's really, really important, and it's absolutely critical. Hey, we've got Texas surrounded, don't we, Janice? We got Lubbock, and we got you in Houston. So glad that you were here. Hey, and Ernest, thanks for sharing. Thanks to everybody that shares this out. I appreciate it. Cheryl, good afternoon to you. Hope things are good with you. I noticed there was a video from Jerry this morning. I haven't had a chance to take a look at yet, but I'll be doing that a little bit later on today. So great to see you. So regardless of the size of your business, and you may be the only leader. Maybe it's even self-leadership. How do you lead yourself in these crazy and challenging times? Leadership is always something that's critical. We're going to talk about what Harvard Business School recently said about leadership. It's a little controversial, or certainly, I don't know if controversy is the right word. It's certainly opened my eyes to something I think that we ought to consider as we talk about leadership. Before we jump into that, though, just a quick reminder that the Ultimate Business Summit is coming up on August 13 and 14. If you haven't registered yet, why not now? Go to ultimatebusinesssummit.com. You'll see all of the speakers that are going to be there. You're going to see what's going to be going on as a part of the program. It's just fantastic this year. It's really, really amazing. The price to come to the Ultimate Business Summit, which is being held virtually, so you don't have to spend money on a hotel room. You don't have to spend money on a plane ticket. You don't have to spend money on meals in Vegas restaurants. You don't have to spend that. So look at this price, just $197 and $497 for the VIP, and you'll see on the site all of the things that the VIPs get. But here's the cool thing. When you check out, all you got to do is enter the coupon code Scott. You get $100 off. So now your ticket is $97 or $397 for the VIP. Just enter the coupon code Scott, and it'll get you $100 off your registration at the Ultimate Business Summit. Stoner's in the house. Mark is representing Nashville. So good to see you, my friend. Glad you are here. Pam is in Fishers, Indiana, I'm assuming today. So that's fantastic. Hey to Silicon Valley. And you got the West Coast down for us, the distinctive Silicon Valley. Charles has got that covered for us today. And Cheryl, to the topic, you're exactly right. That we are leading, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. We are leading. And so I saw some interesting things. The article was titled Building a Leadership Brand in Harvard Business Review. And one of the things that struck me about this is what they were saying about how we can build a leadership brand. There are some companies, GE was known for this, General Electric was known for this for years and years and years, as a leadership factory almost, because leaders of many organizations from Home Depot and on and on and on and on were mid-level managers at GE. And for a long period of time, just saying that you had been through the leadership program at General Electric was like having a PhD on your resume. I mean, they were known as a leadership factory in the time of Jack Welch. There are other corporations that seem to build a plethora of leaders. There are other big companies and great companies. I mean, isn't it interesting that so few executives now have Apple in their background? Uh, Either they stay at Apple. I don't, just off the top of my head, I can't think of many that have gone on to lead other big organizations out of Apple the way that, Chrysler and Home Depot and on and on and on. Others found their leaders, Conseco Insurance when it was there, found their leaders from General Electric. So how do you create a brand that's known as a leadership brand? And this was the quote that struck me. This is what really interested me. To build a leadership brand, the article said, firms, and that's firms of any size. I mean, it could be a small firm, a small practice, a small organization. I mean, it could be a doctor's office, and we're talking about the doctor. It could be a solopreneur. But to build a leadership brand, firms or organizations should assess leaders. And this is the line that, as you might imagine, struck me from the customer's point of view. What type of leadership and the qualities that leader displays would be important to customers? And then later on in the article, it asked this question I thought was really terrific. If your best customers or the people who have invested in your company, if they could observe the training that you deliver for your company's leaders, how would they respond? Isn't that a great question? I mean, if the people that are your customers could go look at the training that you provide for the leaders in your organization, would they think that reaffirmed your commitment to the values that you talk about? Or would they feel like, well, now I get it. Now I know why they can't deliver. Look at, they can't even deliver training. How can they deliver this? Remember what we've talked about before, and that is that customers evaluate you entirely on just two aspects: promise and performance. What are you promising them that you will be able to deliver? What are you promising them that you will do for them? Because if they don't feel there's a promise, if they don't feel like you're committed to what you're going to offer, why would they spend money to acquire your products or services? There's always a promise implicit in a transaction. And then, how did you perform based on that promise? How did you deliver based on that promise that you have made to them? So they will evaluate that you either had a high promise and high performance, low promise, low performance, low promise, high performance, high promise, low performance. Right? I mean, that's the only options that are available. And so if your customers could look at the training that you provide them, or perhaps even at what you do to improve yourself, would it make them want to do more business with you? Would it make you, as a customer, think, man, I'm really proud to be their customer? Hey, Ted, thank you very much for being here. And yeah, that question really struck me. I thought of that in a different way. And right, leadership brand communicates the value you will offer and what you will actually deliver. That's what it's all about. And so Donovan says here too, we is the key, and I'm going to get to that because I think that's critical in what people are looking for today. So if we thought about it in terms of, if our customers saw it, what would make them proud? If our customers saw that, what would it encourage them to refer their friends to us? Because we are a shining example of what leadership could be. And let's not forget, customer here could mean more than one thing. You have more than one group of customers. You've got your external customers. Those are the ones we typically think of, right? Those who are buying our products and services. But you got your internal customers as well. You've got the folks that work for and with you that are customers of what you're doing. And if they haven't bought into your leadership brand, how in the world do you think they're going to transmit it to your external customers so that they buy into that as well? So on today's shortened version, let me offer a couple of ideas of some things I think customers are looking for. Bruce, a great question. How do companies deliver a consistent training message from different trainers? And I think the company has to be very clear about the values of the company and that everything is taught, regardless of the trainer, adheres to those specific values, right? I mean, uh, when you're clear about what you stand for, and that's why clarity is the first cornerstone of distinction. When you're clear about what you are and what you are not, then it is easily transmitted either to your training staff, your training department, your training team, or when it's easy for me, I shouldn't say easy, easier. It's easier for me when I'm giving a speech to give a speech to the company that has very clear values, where the leadership team has been very clear with me about what the company stands for. Now, as you might imagine, just as I talked about, the varying levels of promise and performance, you get that same thing with leadership in teams, right? And leadership in the employees. In that, I've worked with companies. There's promise and performance there with your internal customers, right? We see leaders that promise a lot and deliver a lot, and they have incredible cultures and incredible training programs and incredible organizations because they advance the promise as they accelerate the performance. Then you've got others that promise the employees, man, you're going to love working. And they promise them the moon and the experience is down here. And those tend to be the companies that say, you can't keep good people. Gee, I wonder why, right? You've got low promise, low performance. We're not going to promise you much about your job. We're not going to deliver much about your job. And those also tend to have low performance, right? So as we look at this, how do companies develop when your brand is consistent and when your values are consistent? It's a little bit easier to make it consistent in terms of your leadership training. So a couple ideas on areas where we should be doing leadership training. In today's world, we value leaders who listen more than ever before. We want leaders to hear us, to listen to us, to really comprehend what we as the customers are saying that we want, and that we as employees, what we are looking for. Does your leadership training or does how you're trying to develop yourself as a leader include a component on listening skills? Tammy and I were watching on Netflix last night. We were watching one of the old episodes of The Office, and Dwight in The Office had gotten some coaching on listening skills. And it was the stuff about, look the contact in the eye, nod as they were speaking to show, yeah. And it just that crazy face that he made because he wasn't really listening. He was just executing what they talked about. So it would seem like he was listening. It was funny. And that's kind of the point is not just hearing, but actually listening. Take it in. So one of the things we ought to be doing for the people on our teams who are leaders or that we ought to be doing for ourselves is really studying and thinking about and concentrating on listening skills. How do we listen more effectively? I think today we want leaders who are transparent and humble more than ever before. So as you look at who qualifies to receive leadership training, those are a couple areas that are pretty important. Listening, humility, not thinking that the company lives and dies on your back, but that you are building a team of people who are able to go forward. Many years ago, when I was a student, I was representing FFA, and I got to spend some time with the chairman of General Motors. The chairman and CEO of General Motors back then was a guy named Tom Murphy. And I said, Mr. Murphy, the day that you were hired by General Motors was back in the go-go days. That was the biggest corporation in the world. And 1,000 people were hired just the same week that you were hired. I mean, there's so many, hundreds of thousands of employees. So what did it take for you to become the chairman of the outfit? And he gave me a response I'll never forget. He said, one of the things that happened was I had the realization that I could never be promoted unless I had developed someone on my team who was ready to take my place. If I developed people, then I could always be moved someplace else because there was somebody ready to fill my job, and it made it easier for my bosses at GM to promote me. And as I got promoted through, he said, it finally got down to there were three of us that they were going to choose one of the three to be the chairman. And I had built such a reservoir of goodwill in the organization. I had helped so many others become leaders that they were advocates for me to become the leader of the organization. And that really made an impression on me because I see so many leaders that try to protect their turf. They don't want anybody on the team smarter than they are. They don't want anybody on the team producing more than they do. Yet the way that this person got to be the chairman of what at that time was the world's most influential corporation was because of helping and developing people. So we want leaders who are transparent and humble more than ever before. That's what we're valuing. Arrogance is on its way out. And all you got to do is get on social media and you see that dangerous combination of arrogance and ignorance all put together, right? And why does that turn us off so much? Well, we want people that study and learn and are humble. Ritz-Carlton's a great example. Ritz-Carlton people study the names and the photos and the habits of their best customers. My favorite hotel around is the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess, and I have seen the sheet that they put out. And it's got pictures of people that are staying at the hotel that are their best customers, whether it's the level of points that they have in the frequent stayers group, the frequent customer group, or just somebody that they think people ought to know. And they put out this sheet and it's got their pictures, make a special effort to say hello. I mean, they study this every day. Who's our guest? And Ritz-Carlton studies what are the habits, right? I mean, if even to the point that when the maid comes in to clean your room, if she notices that a country music station is what you have on the clock radio, she'll make sure that there's country music playing when you come in the room that evening. I mean, incredible stuff. That comes from leadership. Leaders being focused on customers, and that's how they teach it. So the most powerful way to develop leaders who have a customer lens is give them job assignments that demand it. In other words, you can't expect an engineer who has had no contact with customers to be customer focused in a position of leadership. One of the things that I recall that Eli Lilly and Company, the pharmaceutical giant based on Indianapolis, where I lived for many years, that was one of the requirements that they had. You had to be, you could not work at Lilly and not at some time have served in a customer facing role. I mean, people in the leadership development courses at Lilly, the management track, were always put in the field to call on doctors, right? Wait a minute, I'm a chemist. Well, if you're going to be in a leadership role at Lilly, you're going to be out in the field and calling on doctors, because if you don't have something in your background where you've been on the front line talking to customers, how do we expect you to be customer responsive once you're in a leadership role? So the most powerful way, according to the article, to develop leaders to have a customer lens is give them a job assignment that demands it. So if you're trying to develop a leader in your business, make certain at some point they understand what the customer really wants and why it's so important to deliver it. Wrong AI. Yeah. There you go. There, Janice, I love that. All leaders have to be coachable and have strong emotional intelligence. I've seen the line before. I don't know who came up with it originally, but they said that your EQ, your emotional quotient, right, in terms of your emotional intelligence is more important than your IQ. You can always learn more, right? But it's hard to take somebody that isn't coachable and coach them into being a good leader, right? I mean, it's you just can't do that, and you have to have that strong emotional intelligence. So, what did we talk about today? Really, really important things in terms of leadership always being a critical issue. Ask the question: if our best customers could observe how we are training our leaders, would it make them proud? How would they respond? Leaders need to be assessed from the customer's point of view, not the point of view of the people internal. So leadership is critical. And it's not just how big companies train their leaders, it's in terms of what you're doing to develop your leadership in a small business. Always, always critical. Hey, Mark, thanks. I appreciate that so much. Always great seeing you, man. Always great having you here. And thanks very much. You are so kind to say that. I'm blessed. I appreciate it. So, as always, it's a little bit shorter during the weekend. Just checking in. I went a little bit longer than I thought I was going to today. But leadership is such an important topic. It's something that we all need to focus on and concentrate on. Hey, let me leave you with just a reminder to go to ultimatebusinesssummit.com and sign up for the Ultimate Business Summit with Larry Winget and Randy Pennington and me, and more special guests joining us. And don't forget to use that coupon code Scott and that'll get you $100 off your registration. I'll look forward to talking to you again tomorrow, same time, right here on Daily Distinction. And don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. Busy weekend. Looking forward to you being there and hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you same time right here for Daily Distinction tomorrow.